Vectors may be one of the most important mathematical quantities that you never heard of. A vector is something that has both a magnitude and a direction. There are so many different quantities in physics that are in fact described with two different numbers. And therefore we have a whole unit of study just to help you understand how to deal with them and how to use them. In this particular lab on vector addition, you'll have an opportunity to add together vectors by two different methods. One is called the graphical method, and the other is an algebraic method. The graphical method will be used in a later experiment, and the algebraic method is something that we use quite often when doing word problems. So for this particular experiment, you are going to create three different force vectors, add them together, and in the ideal case, the sum of the three vectors will be 0. A vector quantity has both a magnitude and a direction. In this activity, we will learn how to add two or more vectors together graphically and algebraically. The materials for the experiment are 3 rubber bands, paper clips, and thread, a spring scale, a large book or pad of paper, some white paper, a ruler, and a protractor. Tie 3 rubber bands together with a thread or a twist tie, and slip a paper clip around each loop. Place a white sheet of paper on a large book, and hook the paper clips near the 3 corners of the book. Mark the center of the system. Label the 3 bands, and also add dots so that the directions of the 3 forces can be identified later. Attach the first paper clip to the spring scale, and hold it in the same location as when the clip was attached to the book. Record the forces for each band on the paper and in the data table. Decide on a scale factor so that the 3 arrows will fit on the paper. A good scale factor for this data set was 0.3 newtons, equaling 1 centimeter. Also measure the angles between vector 1 and the other 2 vectors with a protractor. We will now perform both a graphical analysis and an algebraic analysis of the data and compare the results. For the graphical analysis, redraw the 3 vectors on a new sheet of paper. Lay a ruler against the edge of vector 2. Slide the ruler, keeping it parallel to vector 2, until an edge passes through the tip of vector 1. Then draw a new vector of the same length, starting at the tip of vector 1. Repeat the steps, adding vector 3 to vector 2. Draw an arrow from the tail of vector 1, the center, to the tip of the redrawn vector 3. This is the vector sum, which should be close to 0. For the algebraic analysis, redraw the vectors again, and note the angles for vectors 2 and 3 with respect to vector 1. Assume that vector 1 is lying along the positive x-axis, and that the joining of the rubber bands is the origin of the axis system. Use trigonometry to calculate the x and y components of each of the 3 vectors. Then calculate the sum of both x and y vector components. Find the magnitude of the vector sum using the Pythagorean theorem. Here are the results presented graphically for the algebraic addition of the second drawing. The vector sum will not be exactly 0 because of experimental uncertainties, but the 2 methods should give similar results, as in this case.